So what was the best part about turning 40?
You just feel a sense of purpose. Like you're like, okay, we're here. Like, and now you go out and venture out into the world and make your mark. Like for real.
But didn't you? But you were already making your mark. Did you feel different 30 versus 40?
Yes. Definitely.
Really? In what way?
I think there was all of this hype and expectation, and then I got there and I was like, no, this is not. I don't
not
feel.
what I want. I didn't sign up for
feel
this.
special. But 40, it's like I took it by storm. Let's have it. Let's hold on to it.
So let's start with you
Let's
introducing
begin.
yourself. Yes, let's start. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
And I have stalked you. I actually was like, okay, this is borderline crazy now. So introduce yourself, say who you are,
Okay.
and the phenomenal African woman that you are.
Oh, you're too sweet. I am Justina Omokhua. What more do you want to hear about me?
What does Justina Omokhua do?
I am Justina Omokhua. I am a daughter. I am a good friend. I was born and raised in Toronto. I'm of Nigerian descent. I work at Apple. I head up content. Specifically, it's books, movies, news, podcasts. I'm forgetting something, TV. Yeah.
What does that mean? So actually, when I looked up your title, you have like a
Yes.
very fancy title.
I do.
Global Head of Content
Yes.
and Lifestyle.
Correct. So
What do you do?
It's about understanding how to reach consumers, right? So in short order, I work on marketing, right? So I cover all marketing for those content types, but there's a specific need or specific want to be engaged from a lifestyle standpoint. So to be of and in the culture, where typically not every company is focused on that. It's kind of like, how does the consumer think? What do we need to do? How do we need to sell? And while all of that is important, it's also good to be part of what they do, how they do it, meet them where they are, and engage with them in a way that's meaningful. And
Now,
so
you have worked, so Apple, it's
Yes.
Apple.
Yes.
But you've worked on some major brands throughout your career. So
I
you were at
have.
L'Oreal, you've worked at Pepsi, you worked at
Yes.
Wal-Mart. All of that. How did you get into this space? How did you get into the marketing world?
honestly, so I started out wanting to be a lawyer, and I don't know if that's by choice or because I have African parents who tell you you can either be an engineer, you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor and or a nurse, and everything else is questionable for them, a teacher. Anything that doesn't fit into that genre or those types of jobs is questionable. What is that? So anyway, I wanted to study law, and then I took a law course in high school, and I was like, no, I'm not into this. I like the idea of debate. I don't like how firm law is, right? Where, there is a person who could be very much innocent, but the law says that they're not, and so it's very final. And so that didn't work for me. And so I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go into psychology. And in first year, I got a D in psychology, so that didn't really work out. And so I transferred into sociology with a focus on business. And so it's the study of people, it's the study of interactions of people, and then business is just business. And so from a school standpoint, that's what I did. And then in terms of work, I started out at L'Oreal working as a business analyst, and then I transitioned into an account manager. And so I was working with a lot of buyers and helping them to understand, hey, this is what motivates consumers to buy. Our product needs to be, at eye level on shelf. This mascara, you absolutely need it. You already have 12. It's time for a 13th and 14th. And being at L'Oreal here in Toronto, I had a desire for more. I've always had a desire for more. That's just me. That's who I am. And the options at that time were either move to Montreal, which is where the head office is based here in Canada, or move to New York and or Paris. And for me, I was traveling a lot at that time, and I was really having a desire to move to New York. I mean, who doesn't? Big city, bright lights. And so, yeah, I made the transition. I moved to New York. And once I got there, the world opened up. And, from there, I worked at a company called Nielsen, and I consulted with a lot of different other companies. So I worked with a company called Reckitt Benckiser. I worked with Pepsi and other brands, and kind of telling them, this is how you need to sell, this is how you need to market, this is the type of media that you need to do. And a colleague of mine in a very senior position went to Pepsi and was like, you need to come over here. And I was like, sure. And off to Pepsi I went, and in a brand role and working on category management. And so once you're kind of in the system and you're going, and if you have a desire to keep going, again, it's up to you to pursue those avenues. And funny enough, I fell into tech, and Nokia was where I landed next. And Nokia, people often how do you jump from Pepsi to Nokia? Well, Nokia was down the street from Pepsi, so it was very easy. Same commute, same commute. It was very easy, and I had a genuine interest in tech, and so to work at the company that essentially created, the phone, and everybody remembers also playing like Snake on their phone and things like that, and to be there and to understand the history. And I traveled to Finland and all of these things. I mean, it was incredible. And then the iPhone launched. Which was not so incredible for Nokia, but a great experience nonetheless in seeing, somebody come in from nowhere and start to establish roots. And now when the iPhone launched, not so much, it was $600. And people were like, who's paying that money for a phone? Because at that time, you could get a phone for $0. But I saw what many didn't, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be a problem. And there were many that were like, oh no, it's just a fad, doesn't matter. We created the technology, we have the patents. And I was like, oh no, this is a force to reckon with. And as part of my role, I worked in insights and planning and strategy. I needed to pay attention to what was happening in the marketplace. And so for me, I mean, whenever Steve Jobs had a keynote, believe me, I was tuned in. I was paying attention to what's going on and studying all the trends, and I was like, oh, this is an issue. Anyway, fast forward, from Nokia, I consulted for Verizon for a little bit, and then, I got the call for Apple. And when you get the call for Apple, you answer the phone. And if it requires you to move, at that time I was living in New York, if it requires you to move across the country, then you move across the country. And so that's where things are. And I'm in LA, and I love the weather, and everybody should try it. Absolutely.
So, because as you know, I stalk you on social media. On your Instagram.
Yes.
When you made the announcement about going to Apple, this is what you said. You said from the Big Apple to the Big Apple, ready for the next episode. What was your dream when you walked into that job? What did you want to achieve in that job?
Honestly, like I said, when I was at Nokia, I was always peeking over the wall to what Apple was doing, because for me, I had it in sight in terms of this is incredible, this is innovation, this is the future. So it wasn't that it was necessarily a dream, but I knew in my mind if I was going west, it's like the power of the tongue, the things that you affirm that you don't even know. And I had said, because at one point the head office for Nokia was in New York, and they moved to Sunnyvale, California, which is up in the Silicon Valley region. And it was like, hey, you have the option to move with us to Sunnyvale. And I had said to myself, the only way that I'm going there is for Apple. And so said, so done. Now, I'm not necessarily based in Cupertino, but my job requires that I travel to Cupertino quite often. And quite frankly, the reason that I moved west was for Apple. And so it was like things were falling into place. It was like it was meant to be. And so my expectations were just, look, I have an expectation for greatness and excellence in everything that I do. And so it would just be more of that. Again, I'm Nigerian, and there's a saying, Naija no dey carry last. right? We chase excellence, and that's standard. It doesn't matter if you grow up in the bush, if you grow up in the village, if you grow up in a palace, if you're filthy rich or filthy poor. Your goal and your drive is the same. And so that's always been my drive, irrespective of what company. And don't get me wrong, I'm very happy and I feel very grateful to be at Apple, but Apple doesn't define me. I'm defined before I got there. And so it's just another pin on the board. It's just, again, I'm on that journey. It's a continuous journey.
Where do you see yourself 5-10 years from now?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I have never necessarily said, I'm going to do this specific thing, I'm going to have this specific job, but I do know that I'm going to be further along than I am today. I know that I will continue to impart wisdom. I know that I will continue to reach back and pull up. I know that I will continue to have an impact to my friends, to my family, to people who know me, and to people who don't.
Reaching back, that's something that I know you do a lot of. I am the beneficiary of some of that reaching back. Why is that important to you? It's not something, I can't define where it comes from, it just is. And it would be, I would equate it to a human truth for me. It's just something that I have to, it's like air. So it's not like I need to be very deliberate and I need to do this and I need to check a box. It's just what I do. And it's what I'm surrounded by, and it's what I choose to surround myself by. I enjoy being around people who look out for others. I enjoy people who recognize their positions of privilege. I think it is important, and again, it's just what should happen. It's like it's like one of the commandments. It's like you should, if you are able to, why wouldn't you? So you're one of a very small minority, woman, Black, of African descent, who's at the level that you are. There are not very many. And I recently interviewed a lady, Delphine Choremaidu, who's a C-level executive at Allianz. And she talked about the loneliness of being in that position, because there isn't a club, there isn't a, and a lot of the time, there isn't a path for you to follow. You're blazing a trail. What's been the most challenging for you about being a trailblazer?
I think I don't really hone in on the loneliness, because for me, the loneliness has always existed. I've always been one of, you know what I mean? Or I've always been the first in many instances. When I grew up here in Toronto, while yes, most of my friends are first generation something, I can tell you when I was in middle school and I knew that there were 20 Black students in the entire school, and that's from junior kindergarten to the 8th grade. So again, the idea of loneliness has become a norm, so to speak. Or, being in a particular debate club or on a particular team or doing gymnastics, or quite frankly, I went to Yiddish school because my friends who were predominantly Jewish went to Yiddish school, or knowing about Jewish holidays and things like that. And so, I guess I'm a chameleon in that respect, in that I adapt to my surroundings. Now, would it be nicer to have more of? Absolutely. And I cleave to people who are like me in different industries or in different companies. So they may not necessarily work with me, but they work with me. And I don't let it deter me. I don't let it define my experience. It's what is. It's a factor that I can't control, because if I could control it, it would look very different. And in the instances where I can control it, I do. But I don't focus on the things that are outside of my reach. I focus on the things that are within my reach.
What do you think we need to do for us to be in a position where you're not the only one, the token?
The thing is I don't accept token, because I worked hard to get where I am. Nothing was given to me. So in that respect, and even if a person feels that they are the token, then they need to break down the walls and break down the chains. And if they're in a position of power and they can bring somebody else in, then they should. oftentimes the way that you lead is by example. And people don't necessarily respond to words, they respond to action. And so you need to take action where you can. And where there's an opportunity to recommend or reach back or to refer or to empower or to sponsor, then we should be doing those things. And those are the things that I do and encourage everybody to do. And the people who do it don't have to look like you and I, don't have to be one of. You know, I think in today's society, in terms of what's happening, people are becoming very aware. And some of the people who have never been other are becoming other in many instances. And so they know what it feels like. And just, again, human decency. Right? It shouldn't require that, oh, I'm black, or I'm a person of color, or I am some other thing to require a person to take action. Human decency, right? And people should want to foster difference and celebrate difference. It shouldn't be, oh, this person is special or extra special. Don't get me wrong, I'm special, very, very special. However, again, we have to think different and do different and be better. You know, it's when you know better, you should do better.
Speaking about special, this is how somebody described you on your LinkedIn.
Oh.
They said that Justina is strategic capital. She's clear, uncluttered, passionate. I've rarely seen her abilities matched. What do you think is your superpower?
Wow. My superpower is that I'm a fixer. So, and that doesn't mean that I necessarily have the answer. I don't claim to be an expert at anything, quite frankly. But if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find somebody who does. If I do know the answer, I'm going to give it to you, whether you ask for it or not. I like to find solutions. I like to find the answer, definitely.
What advice would you give to a young girl, a young boy looking at you, the incredible success that you've had in your career? What advice would you give them as if they were starting their career?
Yes, I'll give them the advice that my mother gave me, and it wasn't specific to work. I think my mom gives me a lot of life gems, and they come in the form of stories and anecdotes and proverbs, etc. And one of the things that she says is that when you look at your fingers, all fingers are not equal, but each of them have a function that they perform. So the thumb is not as tall as the middle finger, but the middle finger can't do what the thumb does. The pinky is not as big as the index finger, but the pinky can do things that the index finger cannot. And so I say that to anybody is like, don't chart your path against anybody else's but your own, because you have your own purpose and you're going to achieve the things that you need to do. So focus on you and achieving those things. Don't focus on someone else and what they did and how they did it and the path that they chose to take. Do the things that work for you, that get you to where you need to go.
Speaking about path and the things that move you forward, again, because you know I love trawling your social media. Here's something else that you wrote. And you said, rewrite the rules that don't sing to your soul or speak to your spirit. Create the environment that'll foster your personal growth. Transcend expectations foisted upon your life. What are some of those expectations that you think have been foisted on you, and how have you transcended?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, it's like, oh, well, this person is not typical. Well, what's typical, right? Or, wow, she's a woman. Wow, she is a woman. Great, right? I think sometimes our thinking is too narrow because it's never been done. But if it's been done, then it's boring, quite frankly. We shouldn't limit ourselves based on one person's mind or one person's ability. I mean, there are some very exceptional people in the world that have great ideas that lead to innovation and disruption. But if they didn't explore those things, then where would we be? We'd be doing the same things that we've always done, right? We wouldn't be moving forward, right? We might be in caves because that's what's always been done, or that's what's expected. I say break out from that. Who cares?
Breaking out, You've had some incredible experiences.
Yes.
I've seen you at the Oscars, at the Emmys, at Cannes, at the Super Bowl, hanging with Mary J. Blige, hanging with Oprah,
yes,
taking bathroom selfies at the White House.
Absolutely.
You've had amazing experiences.
I have.
What experience stands out to you as the one where you were like, I have to pinch myself that this is happening?
Oh, I would say there are many, because until you experience the thing, that, you know, it might be Oprah today, but it could be something else tomorrow. And so there are many. If I have to choose right now at this moment, I think also in the current climate and what's happening would be the visit to the White House. I took my mom. She did not know that she was going. It was a surprise trip. I just said, hey, we're going to go to DC and like hang out. And there's going to be a couple of other people there. And we're in the line to go to the White House, and it was cold. And she's like, what's going on? Like, she didn't even know, again, what we're doing. And she's like, wait a minute, what's happening? And it's like, she was just excited, like, oh, okay, we're at the White House. Wow, this is great. And then, you know, for me to be able to give her, she gave me life. And she's imparted wisdom. And I have been able to achieve what I've been able to achieve because I have the support of my mother. She's very prayerful. She stays prayed up. And I can call her at the drop of a dime and say, this is going up. And she'll say, I got you. So I know that I'm covered. And so to be able to give back to her in a way that was meaningful for her is probably the most meaningful for me, is when I'm able to give her something that she couldn't give herself. There's nothing that beats that. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, but in this particular moment, it was very big. And to, for anybody to be able to experience and be in the presence of President Barack Obama, I mean, it's wonderful.
What are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for love, and I'm surrounded by love. My family, my friends, you know, I don't lack. I feel very full.
And what's your greatest wish for yourself?
My greatest wish is for continued excellence, right? Is just to never lose that. To never lose that desire for more, to never lose that drive, because it's gotten me this far, and so I can only begin to imagine where it will take me.
And what do you think is your purpose?
My purpose, that's a good one. I'm gonna say love again. My purpose is to love myself, to love others, to love what I do, to love to share, right? I think part of love is sharing, right? And so you give, and so that you in turn will receive. You don't give with the purpose of receiving, but it's it's an offshoot of that, right? For every action, there's a reaction, and you might not receive in the same way that you've given, but you know, it returns to you definitely tenfold.
Now, you're someone who inspires me, which is why we're
you.
sitting having this conversation. I'm interested to know, who are some women in your life who have inspired you, or people who may not necessarily be in your life, but that you know of who inspire you?
Great question. My mother, of course, undoubtedly. She inspires me, continues to inspire me. And sometimes I question it, not because I question who she is, I'm just amazed, right? And maybe sometimes I'm putting limits on who I think she is or what I think that she should have achieved, and the life that I have as a result of some of the wisdom that she's imparted. But definitely my mom. I have great friends, and I'm not going to name just one because somebody's going to be upset, and everybody influences me in one way or another. So I will say the collective of friends that I have, and I'm very deliberate about my friendships because I don't have time to waste. I don't like negative energy. I don't like negative people. So the friends that I have, they are chosen family. And so I would say all of them as a collective. I think from a distance, Michelle Obama, Oprah, all of the usual suspects in that respect. But I am really motivated by people that I know personally. Because I know them, right? Whereas people that everybody else knows or that are really popular, if I don't know them personally, I admire from afar, but I don't know them, so I don't know that it's that true of inspiration. I like people that I can touch and feel and ask questions. That's what really resonates with me.
You're an incredibly strong, incredibly driven woman. What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of fear. Yeah, fear is what makes me fretful, if you will. Because if you are to live in fear, then you're stuck, right? And you are limiting yourself, and you are dimming your light, and all of the kind of dark elements. And so fear is what I'm afraid of.
That's what you're afraid of? What do you love most about yourself?
I love my curiosity. It's endless. And some people might find it annoying because I ask a lot of questions. I probe. I'm not a surface person. I need to understand why things work the way they work. And even when I understand, then I need to understand more. And I keep digging. And there's just an endless quest. And so there's always something to do and always something to explore because of that curiosity.
What do you wish you had more of in your life?
Time.
Yes. I wish we had more time too.
Yes.
But I'm going to ask, where can people find you or follow you if they want to on social media?
If they want to follow me, I'm at Justina O, and it's phonetic because somebody wants to be named Justina, so it's at JUSTEENAHOH.
And we will link to that. Final question,
yes.
And I'm going to lead into that with a quote that I found on your Instagram.
Okay.
You wrote this: "Nobody can teach me who I am. You can describe parts of me, but who I am and what I need is something I have to find out myself." And that was from the great Chinua Achebe.
Yes.
I am. Finish that sentence for me.
I am great.
Justina, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for
this has been wonderful.
Moving heaven and earth
thank you.
to give me this interview,
This has been
for
great.
allowing me to stalk you on social media.
Absolutely.